And on that note, going to turn to the eye line and welcome our first guest this evening. Keith Whelan, are you there, dude?
Yeah, how are you? I like the introduction.
Did you like the way I built you up? Now, Keith,
Absolutely.
you are the man they refer to as the naked adventurer.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, it's nothing to do with having a penchant for taking my clothes off.
Oh, Keith! That wasn't in the press release. That's a big disappointment.
Well, not in public anyway, you know.
Maybe by the end of this interview we will have changed that.
Maybe, yeah. There's no webcams anyway, so it's good. Yeah, obviously, I'll explain. I'm planning to row from Western Australia to Mauritius across the Indian Ocean solo. And naked. The naked bit comes in that obviously I'm rowing at sea for a long period of time, so it's I'm spending upwards of 3.5 months at sea on my own. Yeah. If you wear clothes in that environment, what happens is that the salt gets encrusted into your clothes, and because you're sitting down rowing for 10-12 hours a day, it kind of makes it very unpleasant. It's kind of like sitting on salt or on sandpaper for that length of time, so it means you get salt sores quite badly. So the thing is to row naked on top of a sheepskin rug, and that kind of helps prevent the salt sores, or at least help to kind of make them less painful anyway. So
Keith, what you're saying is that you rowing naked is very practical. It's not at all got to do with anything even remotely kinky. Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I think you'd probably have to be the most determined peeping Tom in the world to follow me across the ocean in the middle of nowhere, 1,000 miles from anywhere, just to get a sneaky look.
Well, you know what, Keith? You would be surprised. You would be surprised. Keith, just so people can get an idea physically of how long this journey is, how many miles are you looking to row on your own through the ocean?
Yeah, it's 6,000 kilometres, so it's about 4,000 miles. So I'll hopefully plan to row as many miles as I can each day. It will vary hugely depending on the weather. So the weather can be anything from kind of mill pond, nice flat calm water, to 50-foot waves, massive seas, storms. The time of year that I'm planning to leave in, which is April next year. It's obviously planned so that the weather is minimised and that I don't have as many, potential hazards in terms of weather for that time of the year. But in saying that, I am at sea for a long period of time, so I am going to come across some pretty heavy weather and some pretty dangerous situations out there,
Yeah, and on that note, Keith, you seem like a very together fella, very sensible fella. I'm sure you've a lovely life going on. What in the name of God has possessed you to take to the high seas? Because it's going to take around, what is it, like 100 days to complete this, in almost complete solitude. Why undertake it?
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre, granted. I think
got a text here, Keith. Is he nuts?
Well, not certifiably so. Anyway, not yet. Anyway, but maybe after I come back after 100 days at sea, I might be. But I'd seen when I was at school, I'd seen two Irish guys who'd rowed the Atlantic as a pair in the Woodvale race. They'd rowed the South Atlantic, and that kind of sowed the seed in my head. And then kind of it was always there. And then I kind of read a bit more about it. I did think they were crazy when I first heard about it, but then kind of read more about it and discovered it was something that was feasible. So when I kind of furthered the idea about rowing an ocean and approached some friends and that I thought might be interested in doing it, and of course I got the answer, which was absolutely no way. So I kind of resigned myself to the idea of doing it solo, and then I discovered that no Irish person had rowed the Indian Ocean, and that in fact very few people in the world had ever rowed the Indian Ocean, because it's so difficult to row the Indian Ocean and that the weather is so unpredictable. You don't have things like in the South Atlantic. You've got trade winds which will help you get across, but in the Indian Ocean you don't have those. So it's very much you have to row every single mile, and it can be a case that you row 15 miles, stop rowing, and wait, find yourself 20 miles back further where you started. So it's a huge mental challenge, and I say 100 days, but it could take me up to 120, 130 days. It really depends on the weather, so I'm really at the mercy of that. Keith,
that's Wow, that is one hell of an undertaking. If anybody wants to get in on this, you can text 085 102 1045. Keith, you talking about how dangerous the Indian Ocean is there. Have you, we're just going to be a bit morbid for a minute, have you wondered, I'm sure you have, what happens if you get into trouble out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's it sounds foolish and foolhardy on the face of it, but, you don't jump into these things without thinking about the consequences of them, and I have done. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of training in terms of sea survival skills. I'm doing a yacht master's course and first aid at sea course, so I will be prepared physically and mentally, and obviously to deal with any situations that I come across out there, so I know what I'm getting into. In terms of if I have a massive problem and my boat gets smashed into with a rogue wave, I do have a life raft on board, which I can use. I've also got a thing called an EPIRB, which is an emergency positioning indicating radio beacon, which basically emits a signal, which then is passing shipping is informed that I'm in trouble, and they can come and hopefully rescue me, and hopefully there's one nearby. Again, the difficulty with the Indian Ocean is that it's not as busy in terms of shipping lanes as the Atlantic would be, so you could be waiting a lot longer to get rescued. So there are safety procedures there. It's not a case of just going out there and not knowing what you're doing. I do know what I'm doing and do know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, but I suppose part of it as well, Keith, is an element of luck. It kind of depends on what you find out there in the ocean when you go.
Yeah, hugely. I mean, you can be as well prepared and have everything done right and trained and have all the knowledge in the world, but you can just be very unlucky and hit a big storm, and a rogue wave can break your boat in two, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to go into survival mode and survive, and as the saying goes, you're not a survivor until you get home, and so it's just something, there is a joke about things, but the reality of it is a dangerous situation. I'm bringing a 23-foot boat into the middle of an open ocean, and it's a very small boat and a very large piece of water,
Yeah, we've got massive interest on the text here, Keith. How is Keith going to sleep? Asked the first-time texter. Yeah, Keith, sleeping, eating, where's your food going to come from? How are you going to manage to nod off in the middle of the Indian Ocean?
Yeah, well, I plan to row up to between 10 and 12 hours a day every day. So I'll sleep, generally the way I'll row is 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24 hours a day, weather allowing. On the boat itself, there's a fore and aft cabin on the boat. The aft cabin is basically, it's about 3 foot high inside, and it's got an airtight hatch on it, which basically means that you can get inside it in big weather, and although the boat will get thrown around, the boat is designed to self-right, so when it flips upside down, it will flip back the right way. So it's pretty much like being inside a giant washing machine. So basically I will sleep in between when I'm not rowing, I'll sleep and eat in between that. All the food that I eat would be freeze-dried, dehydrated ration packs, so it's pretty much like your army type ration packs. They're not terribly appetizing, but anyway, you can get enough calories in, because you burn up to 10,000 calories a day because you're rowing and you're exercising so much that you have to consume between 6,000 and 7,000. So even at that, at the moment, with my training and stuff, I'm trying to eat a lot so that I'm kind of a lot heavier going out to sea than I would normally be, so that I can lose between 3 and 4 stone while I'm at sea.
Keith, you are going to murder a burger when you get home. God almighty. Sinead in Donegal was wondering if you have a girlfriend and what she makes of all this, Keith.
I don't. So yeah, I don't have to worry about that so much. So that's a good thing. I have a mother though, which
that could be worse.
She asks me questions and then I tell her the answers, and then she tells me I don't want to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't. So it's a case of friends ask you questions, and it's great to have their support and stuff like that as well. But no, I don't have to worry about a girlfriend at the moment, so it's good. Yeah.
Well, once you become a record breaker, a record setter, I mean, that's going to be one hell of a chat-up line too when you're down the pub.
Occasionally slip it in there.
Yeah. You did what? Yeah. But on the subject, just to bring it back to the nudie side of things again, Keith.
Sure. Yeah.
In practical terms, given that you're in the ocean, you've got this salt stuff going on, and you're out there in the elements, surely you're not wearing any clothes. Surely your body is really going to feel the force of all that. I mean, it's going to take its toll on your bits, so to speak.
Yeah, you do, particularly your hands. I mean, your hands take quite a battering, and because you're rowing, obviously, the oars in your hands so long, you get a thing called claw hand, which basically means that you can't actually straighten your fingers after a while.
Yeah.
So certain guys I've spoken to have done it. They've told me about having to tie their hands onto the oars and stuff like that, and the physical pain of blisters and stuff like that on your hands, and on your bottom as well. It gets pretty nasty. I've seen photos, and it's not pleasant. So I don't think I'll be posing for any photo shoots.
Not bum ones anyway. No.
No, exactly, no. So it is pretty nasty, a lot of rashes, a lot of kind of nasty things that can happen. But again, I'm doing a first aid at sea course, so I'll be able to self-medicate and hopefully limit those things, because, your job out there every day is to row as far as you can, and the other simple function you have is to stay alive and stay well.
Yeah.
And that, there's no one you can call that's going to come around the corner and help you. You're so far out of range of land as well. It's not a case that you can get an air rescue, because you're so far out of reach of anywhere that, once you get in the mid-Indian Ocean, it's not going to be a case that you can, decide to quit and walk and, jump overboard, because there's nothing there. So,
well, I suppose it, in a really harsh way, brings the fundamentals of life right out there for you to see. Literally sleeping, eating and survival.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've spoken to a couple of people. A girl who's helping me, Sarah Uten, and she became the first woman in the world to row the Indian Ocean last year, solo. And she found life when she came back quite hard to deal with, because she was very much kind of answering phones and replying to emails, and she didn't have that out at sea. She had a very simplistic lifestyle, and people, even seeing people, if you haven't seen a human being for 124 days, which is what it took her, then it's pretty bizarre when you go back into that environment. And she found it like that, So, but she said, it was the most amazing experience of her life, and one that she wouldn't have swapped for all the hardship and all the things she went through. She wouldn't have swapped it in the world,
Well, Keith, we would love to have you back on after your adventure to hear how it goes for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
At the moment, I mean, the big things for me is obviously one of the hardest things about the challenge is getting to the start line and just making sure that, everything's prepared. There's a lot of work involved in it. So, and that's not, none of it is feasible without obviously my sponsors and stuff like that. And I've got a couple on board like Fife and Row Hire already, and I'm still looking for some more sponsors. So if anyone's listening who would like to come on board and sponsor me and get involved in a record-breaking challenge, it'd be fantastic. So,
Keith, can you tell us where we can follow you online?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter, huge Twitter fan, so I'm on twitter.com/nakedadventurer, or you can get on me on my website, which is www.thenakedadventurer.com.
See, the good thing about that, Keith, is no one's going to forget that. No one's going to forget adventurer, schmenturer, naked adventurer. Now you're sucking diesel.
Yeah, you just might get some strange looks if it's left on your browser, and you go, I can explain. It's not what you think.
Not suitable for work. Alan Psycho says Keith is a legend. Wish him the best of luck. Keith, the naked adventurer. Good luck, man. Thank you very much for talking to me this evening.
Thanks a million for having me on.
No worries. You take care of yourself.
Take care. Thanks. Bye bye.